This is BMW's brand new all-electric SUV. It's called the iX M60. This is the top of the range, and it is insanely fast. So we're gonna check out how fast it really is. We're gonna go over the interior. We're gonna do an in-depth review, but first, I think we need to see how far you can go on a single charge. The range is supposed to be 288 miles, which is actually pretty high, but I'm looking at the dashboard right now and it says 372 miles, which seems a tad optimistic, although this does have a very big battery pack. It's over 106 kilowatt hours usable. So we're gonna do our 300-mile range test. We're gonna go up through the desert, up through Mojave, and then across the Kern River Valley, and then back down into LA, up and down through the mountains, about 18,000 vertical feet. Not sure how long it's gonna take. There's gonna be some traffic, so let's see what the range is, and let's do some driving impressions along the way. So this has an assisted driving mode, they call it, and it does a couple different things. One, it watches the distance from the car to yours and maintains a good distance. And it also can control the steering wheel too. The little display in the dash, which actually shows you where it sees cars on the road. So right now I've got it on, and I found it is actually hands-free below about 30 miles an hour. It won't beep at me. So right now I'm driving in traffic and going 14 miles an hour. There's obviously, you can see a Honda Passport right in front of me, and I got my hands off the wheel, and so far it's actually doing okay. I don't know what the BMW official stance on it is, but I've noticed I've been able to drive for several minutes without any issue at all. Now, I found it's one of the better driving assistant packages in a car right now. I've got a Mustang Mach-E GT Performance Edition with the Ford Blue Cruise, and I find that when you go around bends, it causes you to put your hands back on the wheel. I found that the lane centering is actually quite good in this car. It does have one pretty serious drawback though, at least in my opinion. When you're in stop and go traffic and the traffic is speeding up and it's slowing down, and you have a big speed differential where you get up to maybe 40, 50 miles an hour and then it slows right down, this tends to brake kind of late. So it's kind of like you're sitting with your friend who's like not paying that much attention. You're going, brake, brake, brake. So it tends to brake a little bit late for my taste, kind of at the last second. And I don't really like that, but aside from that, it does a pretty good job. Early on, BMW had a big lead in the electric space with the i3. Small little city car, well received, people really liked it. And then they went on to produce actually nothing else for a number of years. So now they're back with two brand new electrics, the i4, which I just tested, which looks very much like a regular 4 Series sedan, and this is the iX, which is their newest full-size, or rather mid-size, electric SUV. So they're using this carbon fiber reinforced plastic all the way around here and back there too, and this is to reduce weight. So weight reduction is important, but this still weighs about 5,800 pounds. It's pretty hefty, but it does have a really big battery, and that gives this a lot of range. While the i4 looks like a normal sedan, this looks kind of like a spaceship, kind of controversial. They've gone with the kidney grille, making it even bigger than before, but this one has some cool tricks to it. This has got some sensors embedded in it. There's a camera over here, and this apparently is self-healing. So if you want a more futuristic, modern kind of look, this gets a lot of attention. It's controversial, let's just put it that way. So this also has laser headlights and these, of course, LED eyebrows, I guess you could call it. They're a multi-element design, and because the regulations have finally changed in the US, BMW is able to bring these to the US. I'm gonna give you a little demonstration later in the video. They are really cool. We've gone about 117 miles at this point, and our total trip is gonna be around 310, and so that leaves us with about 193 miles to go roughly. Now, the dash is showing me I've got 180 available on my state of charge. So I've been getting about 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour so far. And we're about to go across the Kern River Valley, which has got a pretty steep uphill and a pretty steep downhill coming down. Not so steep, but we're gonna get some regen coming down. And then we're gonna have to go up the Grapevine back into Los Angeles. So will we make it to my house with 180 to go? Kind of debatable. Let's see what happens. This car has a plethora of displays. We have the display in front of the driver, We have the center screen, this nice big curved piece, and we have a heads-up display also. Now, generally speaking, heads-up displays I don't find that useful, but this one is pretty good. It's quite large. You can adjust the height of it. It actually is quite bright. Now, during the day, when you've got polarized sunglasses on like I do, you can't really see it, but it's configurable. You can see your messages up there, you can see your speed limit, you can see the directions, you can see what track you're on, and you can move stuff from the heads-up display down to the display in front of the driver. Yeah, there's a lot of information here, but if you're paying this much for a car, I think the person that wants to buy this car is definitely going to want a lot of technology, and there's no disappointment there in terms of delivering technology. So people seem to have a mixed reaction to the interior. It's very simple, it's very clean, I think it's very elegant. Personally, I really like it. You've got very beautiful, high quality materials everywhere. Even on the lower panels, you got a little bit of soft touch material here too. You got these really interesting sort of bronze accents. The door switches in the iDrive are this sort of crystalline looking thing. And then the console is completely open. And because this is an EV, you don't have a drive tunnel here, so you got a lot of open space down here. You've also got a floating center console with iDrive in the middle. And of course, this is dominated by this massive display that sort of curves around from the driver's side all the way to the center. This does have the Bowers & Wilkins audio system, which is excellent. It's got multiple speakers all over the place, including subwoofers and one center channel, and it sounds really good. So there's a ton of space in here. I think it looks beautiful. I think it looks very high-end. It's very simple. I think it's very classy, and honestly, this is one of the nicest looking interiors of any electric vehicle I've seen yet. You've got two motors, 610 horsepower, 811 pound-feet of torque. Let's do a 0 to 60 and see what kind of traction we get.
You got it.
It's vibrating.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, oh. Okay, that is really quite fast. That is quite fast indeed. Let's see what we got. That was surprising. The whole car was vibrating when I was doing launch control. That was 3.74. This is pretty quick. I think the official number is 3.6. I've got 74% state of charge. 0 to 30 was 1.77. Oh my gosh, this thing is really fast. So both the M50 and this M60 are a dual motor design. Up front, this is a 255 horsepower electric motor. In the rear, 483. Combined, it makes 610 horsepower and 811 pound-feet of torque. When you're in sport mode, it's nuts.
Playing it cool, breaking the rules. I don't need you, I got my own bag.
So the design aesthetic is kind of a take it or leave it proposition. I've gotten used to it. I kind of dig it. It has this sort of futuristic kind of vibe, and when I'm at a charging station, it definitely gets a lot of attention. However, some people really don't like it at all. One thing I do like is these very interesting, smooth looking taillights. I kind of dig it. Now, something that both the M50 and the M60 get is this sort of bronze accent piece running all the way from the back all the way to the front. And of course, this gets these very cool LED light strips in here. And this actually has very interesting door handles. Unlike Tesla, which sometimes don't work in the winter and they pop out, this you just put your hand up in here, little capacitive thing, opens the door. Kind of cool. This vehicle is really important for BMW because they are known for technology, and SUVs are their bread and butter. And this thing is packed with technology. There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras up there in the windshield. There's one over here. There's in the mirrors. And when you're driving, they use something called augmented reality when you have your navigation turned on. And what it does is it overlays an arrow on the main screen with a view from this camera up here telling you which direction to go. Super cool. So you can charge this at home, or if you're on the road, you can use something called DC fast charging, and this will charge up to 200 kilowatts, which is actually pretty quick. So once we get on the road, we're gonna test that out and see what it's like at chargers and see if it's really as fast as they say. Now, one of the big things I've noticed compared to other electrics like my Mustang Mach-E, which has a range of supposedly 260 miles, is that I'm having a lot less range anxiety in here. And frankly, it's because I think this car is more efficient and the battery is just a lot bigger too. This is, I think, about 106 kilowatt hours usable, which is quite large. The Mach-E and the GT Performance Edition that I have has a, I think it's 88 usable, so it actually has a lot less effective range. And in the Mustang, I had already stopped once for charging. Here, I'm actually not worried at all. I can definitely make it to the Bakersfield Electrify America charger, which is about 60, 70 miles away from here. This thing does seem to be quite efficient compared to other electric cars that I've driven. BMW says this is their 5th generation motor. I think that's got a lot to do with it. Also, the coefficient of drag, this car is very, very slippery. It is 0.26, and that is very slippery indeed. So that definitely gives you a lot more ability to go a little bit farther with a little bit less power. So I'm sitting here in a parking lot in Bakersfield. I made it across the Kern River. I got to go back down to Los Angeles, and my destination is 111 miles away. It says an hour and 45 minutes. Now, as I was sitting here, my range went down from apparently 88, because I guess I was running the air conditioning, down to 52. It's what it's telling me now. So I'm gonna try to get back. I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm about 60 miles short, roughly. But let's see how it goes once I get on the road. And if I get stuck, well, there's plenty of charges along the way. Anyhow, they're not gonna be super fast. So let's hit it. Let's see what happens. So I got some choices to make. I've got about 78 miles to get home. It's telling me I've got 12% charge right now, and I'm about to go up a massive hill to get back down into Los Angeles. It says I've got 45 miles of range, and when I was in the parking lot I had 44, went up a little bit, now it's back down. I'm not quite sure what the BMW estimation situation is with the computer here, how it went down 30 miles just sitting in the parking lot. But anyways, I don't think I'm going to make it back home. At this point, I'm at 247 miles right now. So if this is accurate, 247 plus 43 is 290. So that's what the actual range is. So, I'd like to see if we can get there, if we can beat that number a little bit. Don't think I'm gonna make it home though, it's tough. So, and I don't wanna get stranded here. It is about 10:30 at night. This has fully adaptive laser headlights. Now I'm in North America. This is an American press car, and I wanna show you how incredible these are. These are absolutely the best headlights on any vehicle that I've ever used. Let's go for a drive. Okay, so we have an oncoming car, which you just saw. And so now we went over into low beams completely. You can see the car is coming by. And watch what happens after the car passes. The beams light up. I get more illumination in the center of the road, and also way off to the side there too. So now as I'm turning, the beams are actually turning with the car too. You can see on that big cliff there, you see that big beam now. Watch what happens. We go to low beam automatically. Not blinding the oncoming drivers at all. We're still in low beam. We're still in low beam. Watch what happens after this car goes by. Look at the right side of the road. Look at that stop sign up in the left. And then a beam came over to the left side of the road too. These are full laser headlights. They've got multiple elements in them. So now there's no oncoming traffic. And I'm gonna go around this corner. And now as I'm turning left, you can see the headlights are moving to the left of the vehicle, illuminating the road ahead of me. Look at that. This is really incredible. This is more than just regular adaptive headlights. The beam actually shapes according to the conditions. So if you live in the countryside, if you live in the mountains, these are incredible. Okay, it's getting close. I'm at 4% state of charge. I have 12 miles of range apparently, and I'm going up a steep hill and getting really, really poor efficiency. So I found a charger. It's 11 miles back, which is exactly my range, but it's going to be downhill, so I should just make it. So I just turned around and going back down the hill. I've got 8.3 miles to the charger, and I've gained a mile of range. Now going back down the hill, I was at 8, now I'm at 9. The car is currently charging because I'm going down the hill at 65 miles an hour with my foot completely off the gas, now 66. Definitely getting some regenerative action going, so I should be able to coast into the station with, I'm thinking like 3 miles to go. Coming back down the hill, I went from 3% to 4% charge, and I've got 15 miles of range now. and my exit is 2.6 miles away. Definitely gonna make it, but I like to play it kind of on the edge. All right, we got ourselves a charge point charger here. It says tap my phone below. Let's see what happens. Charge point. Okay, it did something. It says plug this bad boy in. Ooh, this is 62.5 kilowatts DC. All right, let's plug her in. So there we go. Looks like it's doing something. It says it's charging. Let's check on the dash. Okay, so it's 11 p.m. It says it'll be totally charged by 1 a.m., but we don't need to get a full charge. All we really need to do is get enough to go about, let's say 75 miles, something like that. So I think about 15 minutes is all we're gonna need right here to get enough to get back home. So what do I think? So 269 miles, that's not 288, but on the other hand, I did need to charge. I'm sure I could have gone the 288, but going up that crazy hill, I don't think I would have gotten too much farther. So yeah, this thing is super fast. If I had driven it like a grandmother, I'm sure I could have gotten home, or definitely would have been very close to it, but 269, I think, is pretty legit. So BMW rates this at 288 miles, and I got 269, which actually I think is pretty good because I was driving up and down through the mountains, and I did a couple 0 to 60 pulls, and also one slightly illegal higher speed run, let's say. So I think you can definitely get the 288, and I think if you're driving it over a flat area, you can probably exceed it pretty easily. So my total trip was 341 miles, and the total cost was $33.11. On the road, I added 25 kilowatt hours at a charge point station for $12.71. Actually very expensive, but I didn't have any options where I was in the trip. And then here I added a little bit more for a total of $20. Total kilowatt hours was 102. So this is actually pretty efficient when you compare it to something like a BMW X5M. The iX seems like a full-size EV to me, but actually BMW says it's mid-size. Does seem quite large though. It's actually an X5 size, and it is 195 inches long, so I decided to compare it to my Mustang Mach-E, put it side by side, and actually it is a full 9 inches longer than the Mach-E. It is 3 inches wider and 1 inch higher, so it is significantly bigger, and they're both pretty controversial looking cars. At least that's my opinion. Tell me what you guys think. Sport boost? Whoa. Okay, so this is a BMW, and when I think of BMWs, I do think of suspension and handling, also power. So we're here in the canyons, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be taking this vehicle to the canyons, but of course I am, because I want to find out what it's like dynamically. And is this a real M product? That is the question. So it's very good. It is very fast. It's probably got more power than anyone will ever need. And the brakes are pretty good. Can't complain about the brakes. But this is a very heavy 5,700 pound car. There's just no getting around that. And the suspension is superb. It is absolutely superb. It definitely corners pretty well for the weight. I'm gonna say it again, it is a hefty, hefty vehicle, and I don't think this is really quite an X5M in the canyons. That car is a little lighter, it's a little more performance oriented. This is really a step below a pure M product and a step above an M Sport product, so it's kind of right in the middle. So I recently drove the i4 M50, which is placed the same way. It's not a pure M product, but that car dynamically is a lot better than this because, well, A, it is lighter. It's only 5,000 pounds, as if that's not a lot. In fact, it is. And the adaptive dampers are tuned a little bit differently. This is tuned a little bit more towards your super comfortable highway ride, which this does an amazing job of. Not to say that this is in any way incompetent in the canyons. It's actually very good for what it is, and I think most people would be very happy with the performance of it. But this is not your ultimate canyon carver car. I don't think anybody expected it to be. Now, there's another thing that I gotta point out is this funky steering wheel, this hexagonal shaped steering wheel. I don't mind it too much in the city. But here, when I'm trying to be precise, I want to have my hands on the 9 and 3 position, and it sort of forces me to have them a little bit lower because of this, the centerpiece, the cross divider on the steering wheel, whatever you call it, the spokes are kind of low. When you put your hands up here, you got these big, chunky, gnarly pieces which don't feel good at all. You don't want to have your hands up here at all. You sort of want to have them here, but instead I kind of have to have them here. So just give me a round steering wheel and I'll be a happy man. I don't ask for much, but I do ask for round steering wheels. I know Tesla doesn't really provide that, and I wish that BMW would provide it here. It looks cool, no question, but it just doesn't feel quite right. Now this has drive-by-wire brakes, and that means there's no physical connection to the brake pedal. And let's see, let's get into the ABS here and see if it pumps a little bit. I've got a bunch of crap in the car, so you might hear some banging. Okay, so it actually does pulse like a regular ABS system, which is very good. Kudos to BMW for that. And you can actually feel a little bit of the wheel kind of locking up. So you've got essentially 2 brake systems in an electric vehicle. You've got regenerative braking, which is using the electric motor to slow you down and generate some juice and put that back into the battery. And you also have the actual brakes on here too. And some vehicles don't do a good job of blending it in terms of feel, but this is absolutely seamless. I can't tell when I'm using regenerative braking and when I'm on to the actual real brakes. So very good job there. The steering is, I think it's okay. It's pretty decent. I think I liked it better in the i4. This weights up in corners a little bit. It's pretty accurate. I don't think there's a ton of feel in here, but it's definitely better than a lot of previous BMW steering systems, electronic steering systems. So again, kudos to BMW for doing a decent job with this. So this is a vehicle that is absolutely competent in the canyons. It's just not my first choice to go out into the canyons, but you know what? We had to try it. BMW's got a completely new approach to the driver information and infotainment system. Here we've got this massive screen which wraps around in front of the driver and over into the center part of the display. They're using this in the i4 as well, and I think we're going to see this probably in some more future BMWs. You've also got an iDrive controller with this beautiful optional wood finish and this sort of crystal wheel in the center, and that allows you to control what's on the screen also by using this touchpad. Overall, I think this is a pretty good system. I think it's fairly well thought out, but there's a lot going on here, and there's definitely some areas that I think could use some improvement, so let's do a quick deep dive. So this display is pretty big. It's got pretty good black levels, and you get a lot of information here. I can see what my last drive looked like. In fact, I can even see that the door is open. You can see it went 341 miles, and you've got wireless Apple CarPlay, which of course is pretty nice. It's got a charger down there too. And one thing that you see is that you've got this crazy menu structure here. So I've got these all apps and I got vehicle apps. And there are so many apps in here that BMW actually gives you a search bar up top, which is kind of ridiculous. So if I wanted to find Spotify, I can, and it's right there. Now, one of the things that I don't like so much is that if I'm sitting in the driver's seat and I'm comfortable and I'm 5'9", I actually need to reach over to get to the screen. It's not as close as I would like. Of course, you can use the iDrive control over here to get to these things. That kind of makes up for it, but there's really a lot of stuff going on in here. Now, the audio system in here, I think, is really, really good. This has got the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, and it sounds really good. It's got really good imaging. It's got really good bass. There's a speaker up front. There's speakers over here, and they're well placed and they're nicely lit. And one of the cool little tricks about this is you've got this 4D bass experience, which gives you bass in your seat. And in fact, both passengers get varying levels of bass in their seat. It's really fun. Here's one of the downsides. There's no buttons over here for the climate control. And I know a lot of manufacturers are doing this right now, but I mean, look at this. This is so confusing, and it's really not that intuitive to deal with. And one thing that I noticed is it's really quite loud. Like, this is the the low setting, and it's really loud. Actually, the fans are surprisingly loud. Here's the high setting. It's louder, but that has got to be one of the loudest low settings of any vehicle that I remember lately. Now, on the good side is it really does cool you very well. These seats are heated and cooled, which is quite nice, but I'm just not a fan of this whole interface. It is better than some other vehicles, I'll give you that, but it would have been easy to put some physical controls down here for the climate control system. There are different driving modes in this car too, which you can get to by hitting a button on the center console. Over here, you've got efficient, you've got sport, and you can't flip between them easily. You got to go to the switch mode button, which is kind of silly. Here's the sport button, and if you want to go to personal, you would think that the personalized menu is the one that you would set up to be your personalized menu. Set up the car the way that you want. No, you can't have that. You've got to go to sport, and then you got to hit settings, and then you can adjust what they call the drivetrain, which is for comfort or sport, driving dynamics, sport and sport plus. You want sport plus if you want the fastest version of this vehicle. Then you got the steering, the dampers, and all this kind of stuff. So it all is quite customizable, but shouldn't this be under personal? Now, one thing I noticed is this car makes a lot of very weird sounds even when it's turned off. But let's talk about the display in front of the driver right now. So this car is all about theater. When I start it up, it sounds like we're getting ready to go to Mars, which, okay, that's pretty cool. I don't think I can turn off that sound, unfortunately, for this video, but let me show you the display here. So you've got some customization. You can change the content, of course. You've got a map. You've got this display where you can see where you're going and actually see the cars around you on the road, which is pretty neat. You've got a range estimation, all this kind of cool stuff. So the display changes based upon the mode that you're in. So right now I'm in efficient mode, but if I go to sport mode, it's going to go to red. And if I go to personal, it's going to go to this color here too. So I guess personal means you can change things like the layout, which I don't think that big a deal. Really? Okay. I drove a total of 574 miles for a total cost of about $52. Now, if I was driving the X5M, which gets about 25 miles per gallon realistically on the highway, that same distance at $5.50 a gallon would have cost me about $131. So it's almost a third of the cost, a little bit more to run an EV compared to its gas-powered competitor. This is my favorite EV that I've driven to date, bar none. So yeah, this is very expensive. This is $106,000 to $110,000, but this is a real premium level SUV EV, and there aren't many competitors on the market right now. Yeah, there's the Porsche Taycan, which you can get well over $100,000, but it's not an SUV, different form factor. The tech in here is great. The driving assistance package is really good. It's really effective. I like the interior a lot. Yeah, I'm not crazy about the HVAC, but the rest of the display is really good. And if you like technology, you're really gonna enjoy this. The sound system is awesome, and I kind of like the looks of it. It's a little bit controversial, but everybody that's seen it in person really likes it. So if you're looking for a really premium EV that is way nicer than Tesla, let's just put it out there, this is way better than the Model X, no question. In my mind, this is, I think, the #1 to get right now. If you want to see more EV range tests, click over here. There's a great video for you to watch. My name is Eric. Thanks so much for watching. Beep, beep.